Welcome. This is Attending reporting live for Primeur Magazine from the eScience Conference in Amsterdam. And we are here with Dieter Kranzlmüller, who is from the LRZ in Munich. He also gave a presentation about Gerdi, but we will come back to that in a moment. But we start first with HPC. So, welcome.
Welcome.
So, you had recently in Munich some very big announcements concerning new supercomputers. Can you tell a little bit about that?
Yes, we just recently installed or started to begin the final phase for the installment of the new SuperMUC next generation system, which is our big supercomputer at the center.
And when you talk about a big supercomputer, what do you call big?
Big is, in a sense, according to our task from the Gauss Center of Supercomputing in Germany, we should be setting up the largest capability systems for German science and research, and this is kind of the next phase of setting up these systems. So big means the system has 26.9 petaflops peak performance and about 311,000 cores working together on solving the largest application requirements we have in Germany.
And so it's one of the three. The Gauss Center is consisting of three supercomputing centers. So and they each have a specific task, when I understand correctly, or more or less specific tasks. So what's your main goal with these machines? What are your main users?
Well, the three centers work together because we have individual characteristics on what kind of applications we are supporting. And by having these three centers, we are able to support a bigger number of applications, cover all the domains that are needed for German science and research, and we also do this by three different kinds of machines. So in our case, the Leibniz Supercomputing Center is the most general purpose system, supporting a wide range of applications, but also, of course, providing an architecture that provides general purpose computing capabilities.
Mm-hmm. Can you give a few examples of the applications that are?
In our case, the applications go quite a wide range, from astrophysics to earth sciences to biomedical examples, just to go from large to very small.
Yeah. Of course, it's not important, but everybody asks a question: what will be the position in the top 500 from that machine? It's a completely unimportant question, but
it's a good question. My answer to that one is always, I don't care.
Yeah.
So truth is, we assume we will be ending up somewhere in the top 20 of the top 500 list. That doesn't matter to us, because what we need is the best system for the science available. And if we can make the scientists happy, then we have achieved our goal.
Yeah. What's the expected, you could say, lifetime of this system?
So from what we also see in the past, the lifetime is usually about 6 years. So we bring it into operation now, which means we're also shutting down the other system that is already operational for 6 years in the next couple of months, and the new system takes over.
Is it planned to have something like an upgrade in the near future? Yeah.
We usually buy a new system every 6 years. And in between, around 3 years later, we usually upgrade some capabilities. And the planning is also the same for SuperMUC next generation. So this is phase 1 formally, and there is a phase 2 in the current funding scheme. So the system is funded by the federal government and the state of Bavaria, and this is already granted for the current version and the next phase.
Okay. One of the things that your machine is also, you could say, special, is that you look especially also about the energy consumption. Is it? That's
a speciality of our center, which is in practice also forced upon us. So electricity costs in Germany is relatively high. So we have to deal with how could we do as much computation as possible with as little energy as needed. And we had been doing some research on that topic in the past, and I think with SuperMUC next generation we are doing another step forward in being more energy efficient for the computing that we are getting out of it.
Yeah. How much power is a system
Well, that depends. The average power consumption should be around 3.5 to 4 megawatts around. But what we are doing is basically we adjust the power consumption to the power that is actually needed. So if you do LINPACK, for instance, the power consumption will go up. If you do a regular application, the power consumption will go down usually.
Okay. Do you have any plans to increase the power input to your center or not?
Well, that comes for the next system after SuperMOOC NG, when we're thinking about Exascale class systems.
Yeah.
We have actually done a feasibility study if that can be done on campus, and that feasibility study was positive. And that included an increase in terms of power provisioning to the building. And it looks very positive. We now need to ensure that politics also understands what their role is in this equation.
Yeah. Do you have an idea what you expect in power consumption from, say, an Exascale machine? Or?
Well, that's hard to say 6 years in advance or somewhere in between, but what we want to have is a power provisioning of around 20 to 25 megawatts, and that's what we have been inquiring, and we found out that this is possible.
Okay. When you talk about Exascale, you are of course talking about an Exascale machine which is proven and which suits your users. So it will not be one of the first experimental Exascale systems, I assume?
It's the same one as for the top 500. I don't want to have the first system, I want to have the best system.
Yeah.
And the best system needs to have some reliable and proven quality, also in terms of technology. And I would also not limit it to a particular technology, but we'll take whatever technology is there, is proven, reliable, and the best one for the applications.
Yeah. If you look at the European scale, there's now a Euro HPC established, Euro HPC joint undertaking, and a lot of money is going into that direction. So, but for you, has that any importance directly, or?
Well, indirectly it is important because it drives technology, and if technology improves, then our users will be able to get better technology for their applications. But for me, it's not that important, as I said, to be the first one, which I think is one of the criteria for the Euro HPC.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But in Euro HPC, apart from funding machines and systems, it's also about supporting others than just the high-end researchers with HPC. It's also about supporting SMEs and supporting, you could say, long-tail researchers, etc. So, is there any involvement there from your side?
No. So for the first thing is, as you say, Euro HPC is about also the support. So support is always part of our equation. When we buy a machine, we also establish the relevant support infrastructure, the support processes and all these kinds of things. So that's part of the budget we actually have, and that's a very important part, and we are grateful that the ministries understand that. For our statutes, it's also clear that we only support science at large, which means we support, we cannot give cycles to industry. All we can do is we can do scientific projects where industry is possibly involved, but that's a different kind of approach we have than what Euro HPC wants to do. The other thing is also, you said the long tail of science. I believe with the wide range of applications we are supporting, we are covering a large part of this long tail of science, even if we don't go down to those that need smaller computing capabilities. But at the far end, at the top end, I think our system is the one that does a good job in that.
Okay. Do you expect that in Germany things will change in HPC, or are the plans now firmly, and will you continue, let's say, the next decade in the same way?
Well, the current funding cycle is until 25. But the ministry has already understood that we need to think about the future, and I think You have been there 2 years ago when Professor Lucas from the ministry announced the Smart Scaling Initiative,
Yes. Yeah.
which is the foundation for a strategy on how to drive this on into the future. I'm happy that our ministry understands that and gives us this task to do. But of course, again, it's something we need to work out. We need to work on the details. We need to see how we get there and how we go on after 25.
Okay. Just as a closing, is it true that there was your center featuring on a German television series?
Oh yes, that was just recently.
Yeah.
It's called the crime story, the Tatort, is the German name. And we got quite some feedback. And I think it's also good that people see how these systems look like.
Thank you very much for this interview.
Great pleasure, thank you.
For Premier Magazine, this was Attemen reporting.